Bizarre Brain Comics. Who? The Dark Librarian. Oh, hello, my comic book fiends. This is the Dark Librarian here. Sorry I can't appear on camera this time. The library has been damaged and the dungeon is a mess. So, since the resident spooks haven't done the repairs yet, we'll have to do without me or my friends. Oh, yes, fiends. And we have the fiends today because we are looking at Grimm's Ghost Stories. And you might say, oh, librarian, the last time you were on, we looked at Grimm's Ghost Stories too. Yes, but this one is number 44 from 1978 by Gold Key Comics. And these were at a time when they were doing 48-page books. Now 48 pages. That gives us 6 whole stories. And yes, Grimm's Ghost Stories, hosted by Hepzibah Grimm, is a horror anthology with 48 pages, 6 stories, and so we have several writers and artists involved in this. Writers like Paul S. Newman, Arnold Drake, Dick Wood, and Nancy Moore. And artists such as Adolfo Bulla, I can't remember, I don't know how you pronounce that. Joe Certa, Al McWilliams, Dan Spiegel, Jack Sparling, Sal Trappini, and George Gamma. A lot of artists. In one book. I think some of this, the material has in here has been reprinted, whether it's which stories or whether it's if text page. I'm sure it has the text page in there someplace. Was originally printed in 1972, so some of it is reprint. What that is, I don't know. It doesn't identify the stuff. And of course, as Gold Key is so well known for a really great cover painting. Now this one is not quite so thrilling, but it is on the spooky side. By probably George Wilson. I don't know. It looks like it could be, if it were a rush job. Maybe, I don't know. But George Wilson was doing so many cover paintings at that time. No telling how many he did per week or month. But most of these titles he did paintings for were not monthly titles. They were most of them were bi-monthly or quarterly. So here we go. Ghost Stories. Grimm's Ghost Stories. A prisoner's ghost demanded his rights in death sentence. And that is the first story we're going to look at. But before we get into that, you see, right on inside the front cover, Captain America versus the Aliens. A hostess ad. And I think this, I can't be sure, but I think this is probably drawn by Sal Buscema. Sal Buscema and John Buscema's styles were so similar at that time, but I think it's more likely to be Sal Buscema. And the style, look of these aliens are something from They look like the Lemurians, really. Okay, Death Sentence. This is by Paul S. Newman. He wrote, I think, 2 of the stories in here. Look, and this is Adolfo Buya, I think. I know nothing about, and I'm totally unfamiliar with. Admirably done artwork, nice characters, nice costumes and settings, the backgrounds and stuff. And this takes place in 1753. Sir Philip Gates. He's an English judge, and he's just taking possession of the now ruined estate, his family estate, and his grandfather, or was it his great grandfather, who had been also a judge, had been the last resident here. And he's checking the place out, and he's hearing noises and someone calling for help and stuff, and he rushes to the tower, and there's an old cell there. And he sees someone who's chained up, and it turns out he is a ghost. And he fades away. He says, "Try me, free me." And he inquires, and it turns out his distant relative, Sir Percy, had been involved in a highwayman had shot and. Shot a servant. The highwayman was abducted, apprehended, and put in the tower to face trial. And he was going to be tried for murder if the servant died. And he was set up there. And while the servant was, a few nights later, they had to take the injured servant someplace to a surgeon in hopes of preserving his life, and unfortunately they were gone longer than anticipated, and then the prisoner got back. The prisoner had starved to death, and he now haunts that tower. So it turns out this fellow who got just acquired the place is a judge. So he goes up there, and he has an impromptu court in the jail cell. The man is tried for murder because the servant did die, and he is sentenced to death. And with that, the ghost is released from his imprisonment and moves on to the next world. Tried and sentenced at last, the tormented spirit could finally rest. It's a fine, well-told story. Of course, it's just a little on the spooky side, but it's not, horrifying by any means. But I love these stories. Then we have Vendetta. Arnold Drake, Joe Certa. A little bit of Romeo and Juliet thrown in on this one. 2 families in Sicily have having a long-standing feud, and 2 of them are fighting one another, but they both are struck by lightning and die, but they each have had children, and the son of one is off elsewhere to be educated, and the ghost of one of the feuders goes to his son and tells him about the long-standing feud, and has to, this is some years later, has to return and put an end to the feud by killing the other's surviving family member. And he's not thrilled with that prospect. He's not that kind of a man, but he's being haunted by his father and for the honor of the family. And I'm talking too much on this. The other family member of the other ghost has also been haunting his remaining child, and but the 2 come together. They fall in love. They want to stop the feud. They destroy the icons of the feud, which one was a tree in which someone had been hung, and the other one is a sword being used in the feud. They destroy them, and the ghosts are freed. The feud is over, and they get married. Then they have house calls, art by Al McWilliams, written by Arnold Drake, and this is stuff we seldom see McWilliams art in. Just once in a while, he was doing at this time he was doing Star Trek just before the movie came out. The first movie came out, and other stuff. He's more closely associated with science fiction than with horror, but he has done some, has a long history of doing just about anything. The nice artwork. It's about a doctor being invited to take over a practice in a small town. Turns out the doctor who had invited him was already dead, but he took over the of course he doesn't find out that it was a ghost who gave him that phone call until the end. Then motive unknown, a Holmesian type mystery in this with Scotland Yard detectives to investigate the murder of a gentleman, but something seems wrong. And then they get spooked. They're assaulted by a spook. It tells them to get out, get out, get out. Well, it turns out that the man they discover in the process that, the man was would have died shortly anyway. I don't understand why he was murdered. And in the course of the investigations, they discover that it was indeed a suicide, but the man had set it up to appear as a murder, had a gun set up in a sliding compartment, etc. And they discovered it, and then the ghost is freed. Now then, the evicted ghosts, a real a-hole and his wife buy a house, fancy house, old house. It has a small graveyard in it, which is inhabited by the ghosts of the people buried there, and they're planning on destroying the graveyard and build a pool. And the ghosts are appearing, said, don't leave us rest in peace, all that other stuff. Things will happen, and things do happen. Workman injured, the owner. He still refuses, accidentally cuts himself, falls down the stairs. He's okay. But the pool gets built, and he wants the headstones by the pool. Well, he trips over the headstones and hits his head and drowns in the pool. So he joins them. Now, these are the two that I like better. These last two are probably the most creative stories. We're having a seance. A lady and her daughter trying to contact the husband, and a man who is known as the Ghost Exposer. He has a long history of exposing charlatans and frauds, psychics and mediums. And he is here with a reporter to cover the uncovering. They see the spirit. The lady thinks it's her husband. Apparently, she thinks it is. He interrupts the seance, and the ghost disappears and tries to prove a fraud, but he can't find any of the devices or any of the gimmicks that he is used to. And so they leave, and he's consulting with the reporter, going to have him call him on his unlisted number that he just got, and then the Ghost Exposer has a sudden heart attack, falls down dead. Boom, makes it into the papers, and the medium requests that he be at the next seance, and they're at the seance there. He has to follow up to his story, and things happen, and the Ghost Exposer appears and says this could be fake. He's always said that it was fake, but then he proves himself by giving him the unlisted number that he had just told him before he died, and no one else knew that unlisted number. And I thought that was an interesting twist on the story. Then henpecked. This is actually kind of funny. A working man comes home to his wife, and she henpecks him. She harps on his shoes. He wants to sit down to relax for a little bit, and she gets on. Now, you got chores to do. So, and then when the time comes to eat, he wants something good to eat. He wanted corned beef, and she fixed him fish because it's healthier. Then he's enjoying his baseball game on TV, and just when it's getting close to the end of the game, she changes the channel and says, "No, here's an educational program. It's better for you." Personally, I would rather watch the documentary than the game, but that's me, not him. And she says, "Do this, do this, do this," and she just nags. Then the next morning, when time to get up, and he's dead. He had died in his sleep. Oh, here a few days later, after the funeral, gets knocked on the door, and his ghost is there. And he is there, and he says, you henpecked me so much, and you remind me of my first wife who had died. His first wife had died. And so he is there constantly pestering her to get back at all the nagging she did. So then one day she comes back with a medium, and he says, "Why have you brought a medium? I'm already here." Says, "You'll find out." And the medium has called forth the ghost, the spirit of his first wife. And she starts nagging the heck out of him. I thought that was funny. Says, "You might say that Martha succeeded in dampening Henry's spirits." Oh, and that is all for this time around with Grimm's Ghost Stories number 44. I really enjoy it. They're not real. They're just a little on the spooky side. They have to be tame enough for kids because they're intended for kids. They could have gotten worse if they had wanted to because they didn't adhere to the comics code. But they did that anyway. So, Grimm's Ghost Stories. A lot of fun. And a lot of good spooky fun. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, share, and subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of ghost stories and all these gold key mystery titles. Oh, I love all those. Let me know what you think about anything and everything. And remember, comics are art.